Okay, here we are in Book 1 of the Aeneid, and we're at the end of Dido's speech to Aeneas and all the Trojans. She's recently just been reassuring them and letting them know that whatever they want to do, that she'll make sure that they're safe. Or they have a number of choices. They could go to Italy, they could go to Sicily. So we're going to start here in 572. And there's a couple of things. The Vultus, it's not really a misspelling, it's an alternate spelling, Vultus with V-U-L-T, which is what the book has. And the book also has a question mark at the end of the sentence, which helps with the meaning a little bit. I got off Latin Library, which just had a semicolon. So she's saying, no matter what you want to do, I'll help you out. Vultus et his mecum pariter considere reginis. So she's still talking to them. So vultis is our verb volo, vele, volui. And the tis ending tells us that the subject is y'all. So she's saying, y'all want. Et here, remember, et can mean and it can also mean even. So we can kind of keep this in our heads for a while. We might say, and y'all want, or y'all even want, something like that. So vultus needs a complementary infinitive. You don't just want, but you want to do something. So if we look through our line here, considere is our complementary infinitive of vultus. His and reginis go together. And the book suggests, an in there, because this is an ablative of place where. So in, literally this is plural, in these kingdoms, which just means in Carthage, right, in the area of Carthage. Mecum is just with me. When you say with me or with you or with himself, you say mecum, tecum, secum instead of cum me, cum te, cum se. And then pariter, the iter ending tells you that it's a adverb. Par means equal or even. That's where we get the word like a peer is someone who's your equal or on even footing with you. And par in golf means you have a score equal to what is sort of the average score. We say on par just means equally. So y'all even want, you say and y'all want to settle in these kingdoms. We take our pariter here, like on equal terms with me, equally with me, question mark. And that's where a question mark will help, because if it's just a statement, it doesn't sound very interesting, or it doesn't sound quite right, where it says, y'all want to do this. So, y'all want to do this, with a question mark. Maybe a little bit better. So, she's mentioned them going to Italy, she's mentioned them going to Sicily, so here she mentions, well, they could also just stay here. And they won't be considered any lower or any less, because they're Trojans, they would be equal even to Dido, who's the queen. Urbem quam statuo vestro est subducite navis. Here we have kind of a strange thing going on. Urbem vestra est is the main clause here, and then quam statuo is our relative clause that refers back to urbem. The problem here is that urbem and vestra goes together, but they're not the same case, which they should be if they go together. They're both feminine, so that's fine. And they're both singular, so that's fine. But the thing they don't match in is case. Urbem should be nominative. To say, the city is y'all's, is basically what this is. All right, she's saying, oh yeah, you could stay here, you'd be equal to me. This city is your city, it's y'all's. And then quam statuo is the city. Quam refers back to urbem, which, so urbem is the antecedent of quam, which statuo, which is there in the book, which I, for the O, I built. So the city which I built is y'all's. So what's happened here is quam is accusative because it refers to urbem, and I built the city. So that would be accusative. But urbem should be nominative because in the main clause, it's the subject. The city is y'all's. So we've talked about attraction before. Sometimes things are attracted to a certain case or a certain gender, and that's what's happened here. Urbem has been attracted to the accusative because of quam, which should be accusative, even though urbem should be nominative. So even though that sounds confusing, the translation of this is pretty simple. The city which I built is y'all's. Comma, subducite navis. Subducite is just our imperative. Navis is that is ending that can be substituted for an es, accusative plural. When we look in the book, we can see this is a long I, which would be the only time that is can be accusative plural is if it's long. Ducite and sub together make a compound word. So ducite is a pretty simple verb, lead. Sub as a prefix can have a couple different meanings. It means underneath, but it can also mean from underneath. So subducite, you might think means lead under, but it's really lead up, because it means from below, pull it up. So the book says draw up, beach, or remove. So beach here is in terms of ships. So draw your ships up from the water. So that would be beach the ships, draw up the ships. By which Dido just means, lay down your instruments of wandering about. Don't worry about having your ships ready. You can stay here, drop your ships, set down some roots, that sort of thing. Tros Tyriusque mihi nullo discrimine agetur. Tros Tyriusque. Tros are Trojans, and Tyrius is the word for like a Tyrian, which is what the people of Carthage are. So for Tyrius, you could translate it Tyrians, or a Tyrian, or you could just say Carthaginian. So a Trojan and a Carthaginian, because those are singular. Tros Tyriusque. Mihi nullo discrimine agetur. We have a passive here with agetur. And with agetur and this dative, mihi, normally we see ablatives of agent with a passive, so someone is verbed by someone else. Right? The test is graded by magistra, so that would be a dative, an ablative of agent. But there's also this lesser used dative of agent that we can see here. So mihi is dative. It's a dative agent, the person who's doing the passive verb. And then nullo discrimine is ablative. So one reason that you might use a dative of agent instead of an ablative is, see, we already have an ablative here. So it kind of gives, it keeps things from running together. It gives a little bit of variety in the sentence instead of just having ablatives everywhere. So one of the things about agetur, it's from the word ago, agere, egi, actus. You can tell in the fourth principal part, actus. It's where we get the word act. Ago, agere is basically the most verby verb ever. It means a lot of different things, and it almost entirely depends on the context of a sentence to give it its meaning. So all by itself, you say ago, to do, right, to drive. But it can mean a vast variety of things based on context. So here, nullo discrimine is just, with no difference. So a Trojan and a Carthaginian are verbed by me with difference. So we can think of just about what the context would be. So you might say, like, are judged by me with no difference, or treated by me with no difference. All right. Adque utinam rex ipse noto compulsus eodem ad foret Aeneas. Exclamation point. So adque is just connecting these things, right? And even, and also. So utinam is a great word. I love utinoms because they introduce optative subjunctives. So anytime you see utinam, you can expect to see an optative subjunctive, which in fact we do in 576. Ad foret is optative subjunctive. And optative subjunctives, opto optare means to choose or to want something. Like when you choose something, that means you want it. So this is to express a wish. And in English, you can get very dramatic and say, oh, would that something happen? And that's kind of the utinam when you translate it. It's almost got no translation in English except that sort of phrase, oh, would that. So the rest of the sentence, let's just go through kind of the grammar. Rex, ipse, and Aeneas, and the next line are all nominatives, so they'll go together. Noto compulsu eodem. Compulsus is also nominative. So it's in apposition to Aeneas. So it's a positive. And then noto and eodem are both ablatives. So it's not an ablative absolute. It's just an appositive. He, having been sort of driven by the noto eodem, by the same wind. Ad foret is our optative subjunctive. It's the subjunctive of ad est. It's the imperfect subjunctive. This is a little irregular. You would expect ad est, the imperfect, to be ad esset, but it's got a funny subjunctive, ad foret. The word does lots of funny things. It's very irregular. So that's the imperfect optative subjunctive of ad est. Ad est is just he is present. So, oh, would that King Aeneas himself, comma, compulsus noto eodem, having been driven by the same, which is eodem, and then noto is one of the winds. It's the south wind, which is the only one I know, because I think of it's the opposite of north, because it always looks like with an N it should be north. So you can say by the same notus, or by the same wind, or by the same south wind. Would that King Aeneas were here. And the reason you're using a subjunctive here is that, of course, they assume he's not. He really is. He's hidden in his cloud. But when you say things that are contrary to reality, you have to use the subjunctive. Would that he were here, but he's not. Like, I wish he were here, but he's not. Equidem per litura certos dimitam et libiae lustrare extrema ubebo si quibus ejectus silvis aut orbibus erat. Equidem is a great little filler word to know. It means indeed, surely. I usually just say indeed for equidem. Per litera certos dimitam. So we've had a couple other future words. I think they're actually almost the exact same words. Back in 571, we had dimitam and then uwabo. I will send and I will help. So here we have dimitam again. I will send, and then ubebo, which is I will order. Per litora is just, along the shores. Per means through, but through the shores doesn't sound right in English. It's probably along the shores. I will send certos, which just means trustworthy, and you have to understand the idea, like trustworthy people, trustworthy men. So indeed, I shall send out trustworthy men along the shores. et Libiae lustrare extremo eubebo. And I will order, there's that understood, them. And eubebo also needs a complementary infinitive. You don't just order someone, you order someone to do something. So we're always looking for an infinitive with eubebo. A lot of commanding words take an indirect command. Eubeo, eubere is the only one that always takes an infinitive. So with other words like impero, imperare, you might see an indirect command, but never with eubeo, eubere. So, and I will order them to do what? To lustrare, which means to survey. Extrema Libiae is the word order that you would take in English. The extreme parts, the furthest parts of Libya. So extrema here, it's that neuter plural a that can be accusative. I will order them to survey the extreme parts of Libya, the furthest parts of Libya. So she's sending out men. She's going to send out people who could be helping build Carthage or help protect Carthage, and she's going to send them out to look for Aeneas because she feels like it's such a worthy task to dedicate men to. Si quibus ejectus Silvis aut urbibus erat. If, so quibus, the book will tell you as well that quibus is really a indefinite pronoun, any, and that's because it's not really quibus, it's aliquibus. Remember that after si, nisi, ne, and also num, depending, people learn different rhymes. Si, nisi, num, and ne, all the alis run away. So it should be aliquibus, which is anybody, anything, but the alis run away because it's scared. And it's ablative plural, and it goes with Silvis and urbibus. So those all going to get any woods and any cities. Ejectus is nominative, and it refers back to Aeneas. That's who they're talking about. So if having been sort of thrown aground or thrown out, ejected. And then the erats are verb. So the C here, too, instead of saying if, the book suggests we say in case that, which you can also say. So in case that having been thrown out, thrown aground, he is wandering in quibus Silvis aut urbis, any forests or cities. So in case he is sort of met with trouble and is wandering about, she's going to send people to help. So after this end of Dido's speech, the next part of the Aeneid that's on the syllabus is actually in Book 2. So what you need to do is find a good translation, either your own book or online, and then find the part in the English where Dido's giving her speech, find the end of it, and make sure you read through in English so you understand where they're coming from in Book 2. Book 2, I believe, we start, let me check. We start in line 40 in Book 2. So you want to read a little bit into Book 2 as well so you can get sort of the introduction to it, because we'll skip 40 lines before we start translating together in Book 2. And then I think it's just a really short 16 lines, and then we're going to skip a whole bunch to line 200. So make sure you have either a good website that you like that has the translation, or you have your book so you can review and make sure you know what the story is. All right?